Welcome, friends, to episode 5 of Quest Rewind, where for the past couple of weeks we've traveled back to the 90s and talked about the Nintendo 64 from the birth. So everything leading up to the eventual launch, all the way to the actual launch itself, with two whopping games, including, obviously, we talked about Super Mario 64, the games that came out within its first 12 months, which is very interesting to look at, especially considering some Super Nintendo games were still coming out after the release of the Nintendo 64. And then we traveled back to modern times to 2021 and talked about the legacy piece. In a time where these games are available now, at least some of them, on the Nintendo Switch, there's definitely a lot of clamor, love, and nostalgia for this classic console. So in this episode, we thought, why not end this 5-episode series by talking about one of the top 10 selling games for the console, which is going to be Star Fox 64 with yours truly. My name is Juan from Puerto Rico.
I'm Ryan from Boston.
And I'm Keith the Bearcat Hamilton.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Does the Bearcat know how to fly, though?
Does a bear or a cat know how to fly?
I mean, you got the 9 lives with the cat. Not sure about the bear, though, so it kind of balances itself out.
Sure. Maybe in one of those lives I'll learn how to fly.
Maybe.
Before we continue, I feel like we need to do a bit of housework here, right? We've been housekeeping, not housework. That's for later after this episode. But
exactly.
We're going on. We have these series of episodes, these little seasons where we delve into a specific topic. This being the N64 for our first series. These need to be called quests, right? Like, we're Quest Rewind. So we're about to finish our N64 quest here with a review of Star Fox 64. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, we can say the adventure's about to conclude.
I think we can acknowledge it.
Exactly.
What is our reward? How much experience are we getting for this?
Do we gotta do like a new game plus?
You get the experience of Star Fox 64 and the time that you spent with it.
I mean, that is true. That's not a bad quest, though, and for those
some say the real quest was the friends we made along the way.
That's
and
so
the
beautiful.
Bearcat.
I may cry, and like it's been really cool, and we'll talk about this at the end of this episode to just create an experience. Like, I've actually gone back and listened to a couple of the episodes because we record them in batches, right? And it's very interesting how one really leads up to another. And as somebody that loves to binge like Netflix series every now and then, we truly hope that everybody's been enjoying it. And if you have, please head over to Twitter at Quest Rewind and let us know. Also in the description, if you're checking this out on Spotify, Stitcher, or anything like that, you can actually check out the link for the Discord. And there's a really great, passionate retro gaming community over there. So go and check that out. And now, guys, I feel like before we actually talk about Star Fox 64 itself, we got to talk a little bit about Star Fox in itself as far as the first time that we saw it. And I think I can't be the only one that I was freaked the hell out when I saw the box art for the damn Super Nintendo game, because it's like, it's a fox, but it's not. It's like real. It wasn't animated. It legit freaked me out as a kid. Was I the only one?
Maybe. I thought it kind of looked cool.
No, it was freaky.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one, Juan. That nightmare anthropomorphic fox thing that was on the box for it, that it kind of was like puppetish, like Chuck E. Cheese puppetish.
I was going to say, it does kind of remind me of like a Chuck E. Cheese character.
Maybe that was also what they were going for. At that time,
I kind of like Chuck E. Cheese, so maybe
and
that's why I felt
played into it.
It makes a little bit of sense, because when you look at the casting, I don't think Star Fox maybe became as popular as they thought it would. But when you look at N64, it's like you have a cast that could totally be in like a Chuck E. Cheese. And the first game came out in
Slippy on the drums on that weird happen. Chuck E. Cheese stage. Yeah.
yeah. So traveling back to 93, that's when the first game came out. It's worth saying first game because this is maybe the only exception where the sequel to the first game came out after like the third game and like the 3DS one and all that, and Star Fox 2, which was being developed for the Super Nintendo. It didn't come out because they really wanted to just save any future stuff with N64, which I think in hindsight was great. but just remembering what the original game looked like. I never actually played it back in the day. I played it years after an emulation. Did you guys have any experience or any reaction to how that first game looked like in its early 3D stuff?
No, I was in the same boat as you that, like, I had a Nintendo as a kid, but I just completely missed Star Fox. Like, the first time I played a Star Fox, I knew it existed, but I didn't actually play the game until it was available on like Nintendo Switch Online, the Super Nintendo aspect of it. So I kind of had like an idea of what it looked like, but I didn't really know until I sat down and played it. And boy, I give them credit for pushing the Super Nintendo as hard as they did with that first Star Fox game.
I was not really aware of Star Fox until Star Fox 64. I think that's when a lot more people became aware of it and a lot more people were into that game versus the Super Nintendo one. Before I played 64 for this episode, I did hop on my Switch and check out Star Fox for the Super Nintendo. And I couldn't even get through the first level of the game. I was just like, this is brutal. It feels like it's moving at 5 frames a second. It's yikes.
I'm amazed that thing ran on a Super Nintendo.
I couldn't even really distinguish who was an enemy and who was an ally. It's
just all
really
polygons. Bad. That Mode 7, baby.
Yeah, it's something that because I didn't play back in the day, when I first played it via emulation, I thought the emulator was broken. I'm like, oh, okay, this can't be how it actually was. And I went on YouTube, saw gameplay. I'm like, holy crap. But I do think it's a very interesting concept because for anybody that wasn't sold on 3D gaming, you could be like, here's Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, here's Star Fox on the Nintendo 64. I think that's going to sell you on that. That was like an interesting comparison, right?
Yeah, I mean it's night and day with those two games, really. If you ever want to feel like N64's graphics are amazing, play Star Fox for Super Nintendo and then immediately go to the N64 version and you'll be like, "Oh, this is the most beautiful sight I have ever seen."
Yeah, but you got to give them credit for trying with Star Fox 1, and if you've never played it, I still think it's worth checking out that first level, mostly because it has the best level music of any game ever, in my opinion. That Star Fox 1 first level. It's so good. It slaps so hard.
And we'll be talking about the soundtrack even in this game. And for context, once again, it's like 1993 for the original game. Now we're traveling over to April 1997 for Star Fox 64. And I think this game is like super relevant now in a time where in modern gaming, people always ask like, oh, this game is 6 hours long, only 6 hours long. It's not worth it, right? You can look at Metroid Dread, and when that game came out, people's complaint is this game's not worth 60 because it doesn't last 40 hours. Yet you go back to 97, and I mean, this is one of the shortest games of all time, just as far as like, on average, the game takes 2 hours to beat. This is according to HowLongToBeat.com, and it is one of the top 10 selling games for the console. What's interesting here, too, is like the three of us were really going in, me having been the only one that beat it back in the day, which is not saying much, because I mean, the game is like less than 2 hours, right? But either one of you, let's start maybe with Keith. Knowing about it, but finally getting a chance to sit down and play it, what you think of it?
I actually really enjoyed my time with Star Fox overall. I when we sit down and do these reviews, I try and think of it in almost 2 frames of mind. Like, what would 1996 Keith think of this, and then what does 2021 Keith think of this? And having played it now, I'm amazed I didn't play it back in the day, because I feel like I would have fallen in love with it, because these days most of my favorite games are those run-based games, those ones that go like, oh, it only takes 2 hours to beat, but you can play it multiple times and have different runs and different experiences. And I feel like this and the original Star Fox are some of the first mainstream examples of that. So I feel like I would have loved it back in the day, and honestly have no idea why I didn't play it. And with the exception of a few things that we'll touch in this episode, I overall enjoyed my time with Star Fox 64.
I had a good time with it. The kind of space shooter type game is not exactly my favorite genre, but I did enjoy my time with it. I'm pretty bad at the game, so it was a little rough. I basically probably ended up in the route where you have to do the least amount of work because I wasn't able to accomplish anything until like the end of the game. Basically, I wasn't able to like stop a bomb from exploding or any of that stuff. So yeah, I could see myself if I was a kid and this was one of the games I owned, I could see myself like really sinking my teeth into it and wanting to see all the different paths you could take. But nowadays, I'd probably be happy to, play through one route, maybe try to do a different one and then, basically call it a day. But, I enjoyed it, but it's not something I see myself going back to again and again.
And for those that haven't played it, as Keith mentioned, I think that this game is like super relevant as far as mobile gaming now because it's a rail shooter. So the whole concept is you don't have to worry about moving up to a point because in some parts of the game you do, but generally speaking, you're always going forward. So it's about the decisions of do you go left, do you go right, do you miss something, and that eventually leads to multiple paths. So this is a great example of a game that it is meant to be replayed. The whole concept is you're going to breeze through this game, even at your worst. Like, it's a rare occurrence where I think whether you're bad or good, unless your ship gets destroyed and you have to restart the mission, the average playtime is going to be the same. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially, like, towards the end, like some of those later stages, especially when you have enemies behind you. But
oh, yeah.
I'm surprised at how much I still enjoyed it because I remember as a kid, I played it and I was blown away by so many of its presentations, like the music. Keith wanted to talk about the voice acting. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And it's one of those games where you're so afraid to play it now. I think the one knock against it, and this is no surprise, is it's very difficult to control. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I did play via emulation for context, but with an N64 controller. So I tried to have the most authentic experience. But even then, I forgot how twitchy it felt. I feel like I can move around, but damn, it's sometimes hard to get that specific angle. I basically spammed the fire button. You know how you can power up and it does the auto aim? Once I remember that, I'm like, dude, I'm just going to spam that as much as I can. What about you guys?
I tried my best to do that too.
Yeah.
Controls were tricky for sure. You really had to lean on those like U-turn moves to turn back around and also to do like a somersault, whatever it is, to get people off your tail. It was pretty tough. Like you said, in those later levels, some of the enemies are just like glued to your tail. And sometimes you didn't know, oh, you're not supposed to be trying to take them down, but you're supposed to be like taking down the thing in the middle of the map or whatever. So it does get a little tricky. And same thing, you probably want an N64 controller if you want to play this game.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to do this on Switch Online and you don't have that $50 controller that's getting scalped,
man, with the Joy-Cons
up the wazoo, you're in trouble.
Yeah,
you're in trouble.
Joy-Cons, good luck with that. And maybe I give this a little too much leniency, but to me, like the finicky controls and learning how to work with them, like for me, that's part of the experience. Like every game that we go through to review that's from an era like Super Nintendo, N64, I always give myself that I'm going to suck at this real bad for the first hour or so and then eventually learn the controls, and by the end of it it's fine. And I found that to be the case with Star Fox. Like it was rough that first time through that first couple of levels, but eventually it kind of clicks and then it was okay for me.
And I think the best takeaway with this game is Super Mario 64 laid the foundation for here's platforming done right. But Star Fox, it's in a league of its own where I don't think a lot of developers saw this game and said, you know what? I gotta make me one of these. In many ways, it's kind of like Twisted Metal. That's another genre that, aside from a few spin-offs and clones, it was kind of like The Thing. You got the new Twisted Metal game because a lot of other people, you have like Vigilante 8 on the PS1 and all that. But I think it's a game that if you have too many of these in a genre, the burnout is real because it's such a specific
No, that's a different
thing.
genre.
I mean, brace it. Okay, I get it now. I get it now. Okay,
Wow.
you know what?
made
I'll
it
give you a
funny.
high five for that. But I think the most impressive thing about Star Fox, and I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on it, is the presentation. Because it's like the first 2 minutes where you have the ship, you realize the analog stick. Put yourself in the shoes of somebody that just went from the D-pad on the Super Nintendo to the N64, right? And maybe this is their first time thinking, wow, I can actually steer the ship and it doesn't go like at 5 frames. But you also have incredible music and it's got very vibrant colors and I get to make some decisions. And there's voice acting as well. It's a carefully curated experience that almost should have been in a kiosk, and I assume this was in a ton of kiosks and like Toys R Us and all that. What was your takeaway with those first 2-3 minutes playing this for the first time, and especially now?
Honestly, this is where Star Fox kind of fell apart for me. Like I said, I overall enjoyed the experience, but that first time I went through it, I agree 100% that it's awesome hearing the music, even though I had the reference point of the original Star Fox in my mind, and the music just isn't as good as that first level because it's one of the best ever. So having that, having the voice acting, having your squad there firing the enemies, it was really awesome the first time. And then we got to the first time I died and had to restart. And then it's the same voice acting. It's the same lines. It's the same, look out, Slippy! For the second, the third, the fourth time. And then I beat the game. And then I wanted to try another route. And then I realized, like, oh, every route goes through these same voice acted lines for the first part of that game. Until you hit your first like intersection, you're experiencing the same thing. And I found that the voice acting at the end of my experience was something where I thought, like, just because they could doesn't mean they should have. Because in Star Fox for the SNES, like, they had those, and it's I consider them to be iconic. Those weird mumbly voices, like
Yeah.
It's like the Banjo-Kazooie voices.
Yeah, the Banjo-Kazooie voices, and I feel like it would be a lot less grating if they did that instead of voice acting on those subsequent playthroughs. And once I got to that point, it turned me off on playing more of the game totally. And I feel like that's the presentation 100%.
I feel like without the voice acting, I would have never known to use the boost to go through, though. That's the problem. Yeah, I can see how after a
What about
while,
the barrel rolls?
yeah, I had to go for the other one. The barrel roll's the obvious line, right? But the voice acting, I could see if you're really trying to test out like what's every route, what's every path you can take. I could see how the voice acting could get really annoying, but I think it's pretty impressive for kind of immersing you, and they do a good job of having lines for kind of every scenario where someone's like, oh, get this person off my tail. So if you shoot down that ship that's chasing them, they'll thank you for it, or if you don't, they hate you, or if you shoot them, they get mad at you. I think they really covered their bases, especially because you can't fit much voice acting on an N64 cartridge. We know the space was extremely limited, but this is also a much shorter game too. So I think because it was a shorter game, they could do a little bit more with the voice acting. So I think I think they hit a good balance, honestly, but I could see if you really were putting hours into this game, you might start turning the voice acting, if you can even adjust the volume down for that specifically, or you would just turn the whole thing down.
But I would like to agree with Ryan with that, where the voice acting to me is incredibly iconic, but it is repetitive because especially towards the later stages where
I just
it is
wanted
more
Slippy
challenging.
to die at a point. Like, no, don't watch out, Slippy. It's for you.
I mean, it's
This
a reason
bullet's
it became
for you.
it became a meme, right?
I
I'm
know.
sure it became a meme from everyone hearing it 1,000 times, right? That's why "do a barrel roll" is an
and
iconic
it's not
line.
even and it's not even when you die. Sometimes in some parts, like they'll keep spamming the same thing over and over to the point like, Slippy, I hope you die. I hope you
Yeah.
freaking die. So you get off my back at this point. And I think it's like those little things where it's bittersweet. I think back in the day, hearing such clear voice acting was amazing, especially like. It's pretty good voice acting, all things considered. Like, let's go back to 1997, okay? Not exactly a bona fide great period for voice acting in games, yet here it was great. It was just a matter of, if you do it, you got to go all the way, right? Have alternate lines so you're not hearing literally the exact, enunciate differently, say it at a different pace, just to avoid that. And because it's a game about replay value, I do think, both back then and now, that is a challenge, right? It's not a game that you're meant to play one time. Yet, despite that, I think the scope of the game is something I'd like to talk about, where I think it did a great job of, because you have to go forward, it really makes you think hard about, okay, do I want to go below this, or I see a ring over here, or I haven't gotten enough stuff, like I don't have enough health. So it really makes you think about whether you want to look up or down, or if you want to destroy something like in the train tracks, there's one part and you got to take down a series of things, right? I think it was like 8 of them. And then I can be the only person that I'll miss one. I'll get upset. I purposely destroy my ship just so I would try it again. And I think it's the matter of, you want to have that perfect run. This is like I feel like if the three of us knew each other back in 97, this would be the, oh, damn it, Ryan got a cleaner run than me. I got to go back home and I got to improve. And I think that's something that now is maybe not so obvious, but back in the day, that competitive element between friends was definitely there. Like, going back in time, do you think that would have been something that you would have been like, oh, damn it, I got to do better than, the friend next door?
Oh, absolutely. Especially when that plays into the multiple paths, like having a friend go, oh my god, did you know if you do this, then Starwolf shows up? Or if you go down one of the hard paths, you actually get a new final boss fight, and having to go home, put in my cartridge of Star Fox and see that for myself. Like, I imagine word on the street or word in the playground played a huge part in Star Fox's popularity.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind of arcadey style because you had like the high score at the end and everything like that. So it felt a little old school, where a lot of games were moving towards longer adventures and moving away from that arcadey style. That this was something that was embracing something a little bit different. I mean, I guess the cartridge could save because you would have scores on there, but otherwise it's not really saving anything. But I like that it's a little bit different because, like I said, the other N64 games were kind of just going in a different direction. And I think Keith earlier made a good point that roguelikes are kind of the new version of that, right? The Binding of Isaac or Hades or something. That is kind of the new run-based games. And it's a little bit different than Star Fox, but I think there's some of the spirit.
The DNA
that.
is still there.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think there's 2 other things we got to get to. The first one is, let's talk about the actual characters. I think Star Fox is one of those things that, even if you didn't play any of these games, because even though it did sell a lot, like when I go over here, it was number 9. It actually sold, let's go over here, it sold like 4 million copies. For context, Mario Kart 64 sold 9.8 million. So we are saying it's a significant chunk of gamers that enjoyed this. But even if you didn't, there's so many iconic characters, right? There's a reason people beat something like Do a Barrel Roll to death, because it was amazing to actually hear that, and you do it and you get the voiceover. You have Fox, Peppy, Falco, Slippy. Like, you have a cast of characters that I'm pretty sure Nintendo wanted to do something more with them, and maybe it just didn't pan out, because Keith mentioned Chuck E. Cheese. This is absolutely something that I don't even know if, like, Nintendo World in Japan, I don't know if they're going to have a Star Fox section, but these characters feel like they're made for a Disney ride or something, right?
They could be like Nintendo's space. If they did like a Space Mountain for
Yeah.
Nintendo, I could see it being a Star Fox ride, but I think Nintendo values some of their other properties more for whatever reason. Star Fox is definitely
It's
on
been
the-
there.
it's there, but it's on the lower end. So it's the same reason like a lot of people.
It's not like Pit and Ice Climber level, but
No,
it's,
it's
like
definitely
not
above that.
Mario level.
It's probably like just below like Metroid. Like
Yeah,
Metroid.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, Metroid doesn't get a lot of love until obviously recently. Metroid finally got some attention. But yeah, I put it like slightly below Metroid on like Nintendo's priority. For some reason, they do value Donkey Kong quite a bit. It was their kind of OG because they're building like a Donkey Kong land as like the next part of the Nintendo
Mhm.
I
World
wanna
theme
go there
park,
one
which
day.
kind of surprised me.
If you-
Mainly because I wanted the Zelda themed one, of course.
If you think about it like wrestling, I actually think it starts to make a lot more sense because you've got your top guys in Mario and Link and Donkey Kong, right? But right below them, you have those characters that you try things
You
with.
need your
and then-
mid card.
yeah, you need your mid card, and then like Nintendo tried to give Star Fox their time in the light with Star Fox Adventures on GameCube. Like they gave them a full story and like a full like flushed out experience, and it just didn't hit the mark. So you hit the delete button, you tell Falco to go learn a new hold somewhere, and then you move on with your
Is
top
Fox
stars.
like the X-Pac of Nintendo or something?
No, I think
He's like,
I think
he's there,
Slippy.
but he's
Slippy
never the
is
main
the
focus of
Nintendo, or Slippy is the X-Pac of Nintendo. You can put him in the ring with anybody, and it'll work out.
But yeah, I do think it's a shame that when you look at Star Fox, it's not even like sequels, because yeah, we did get Star Fox Adventures, but we've gotten a lot of revisions on the same game from Star Fox 64 3D. I feel like Nintendo's always just said, hey, let's make a different version of the same game, because that is also a challenge, right? When you have something like a platformer, Ryan brought up Donkey Kong Country, because it's a rail shooter, as much as you change it, it's still a game about going forward. And you can get creative, but it's like, how many endless runners do you have on your phone? You have Crash, you have this and that, but essentially the core gameplay can't change that much because you can't stop a lot, right? And I do think at the end of the day, that's always going to be a challenge with this. And maybe why some people were kind of just fine saying, I played 64 and I don't need more.
Yeah, that was kind of the problem was after Star Fox 64. It's like we had the Super Nintendo version. We knew it could be improved, right? Then you have Star Fox 64 and it's a great experience. It's popular. But where do you go from there? Besides just doing the same thing, but new levels, right?
Yeah.
And then they tried
besides,
something
like,
new.
Fancy graphics, what can you do?
Yeah, they tried something new with Star Fox Adventures, and it had kind of a mixed review. I think some people did like it. I've never played it, but
I have a copy. I haven't played it, but I own it.
yeah. So yeah, some people liked it. I think a lot of people didn't. They would have preferred a new Star Fox game, and maybe they could do something around a more of a roguelike style if they ever did want to make another one. Really, if you think about it, if they added just a ton of power-ups and randomized the levels, they could probably do something
So
around
what you're saying
that.
is make a mobile game. That's what you're saying.
No, not necessarily mobile game. Hey, I mean, Haze on the Switch, something like that. You just gotta, like, maybe not even fully randomize the levels, but something with the enemies could, the levels could be the same, but the enemies could be randomized, and you just have way more power-ups and different abilities and different guns and things like that. I think you could make it work. That's the only direction I could see it going without it just being Star Fox 64, but better graphics and just different levels.
And you say mobile game like it's a bad thing there, but is it really? Like, what if you just had like a Star Fox mobile experience where you can take your phone, you can tilt it a bit, and then
I play
go
that.
through the
I
levels
play
that
that.
way? And like, each of the different members of Star Fox, they play a little differently, they get different power-ups and add some variety that way. Like, honestly, that doesn't
Microtransactions.
sound like a bad
Nintendo's
game.
embraced mobile games a little bit to kind of mixed reviews.
They've scaled back. Aside from like Pokemon Unite, it seems like their initial idea of we're gonna just Mario everything. I don't think it
Well,
worked
hey,
out.
I know the
Emblem
Mario Kart
houses
one added
thing.
Vampire Waluigi. Okay.
Okay, so
So, but I've never played it.
So something I do want to take us back to is I brought this up at the during the intro, which is replay value and length of time. Just like using this as an example. Hypothetically, we have two scenarios with this game. This game is planet-based, and then depending your decision, it changes. Some people, like I was doing some research, said they would have preferred maybe less planets, but each one be more of an experience, right? With like different phases or something, maybe increasing the playtime. But we got what we got, right? Whether it be limitations or something. Do you like the fact that this game is short? It's multiple planet based. You're not saying that you're going to be in each planet 10 to 30 minutes, right? They're usually pretty short experiences, regardless of your gameplay abilities, unless you die. It's like, where do you stand on this? Do you think this type of game doesn't just work then, can maybe also work now? Or would you like maybe, I'm not going to say padding it out, but prolonging the time in each planet?
For how it's built now, I like how it is. I wouldn't change it. Like I said, if you were to make a new Star Fox, I kind of went over how I would approach that. But for Star Fox 64, I think the way that they did it, where each planet is just one level, they don't outstay their welcome. I like how that's designed.
Yeah, and I'm gonna kind of move the quality and price of Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack to the side on this conversation, because that's up for you. That's up to you to decide. But if you think about what kind of game they should have on there, I think Star Fox 64 is a perfect thing to be on there these days. Like, it's something that you can check out, play once, get your fill.
The ultimate pick up and play.
Yep.
Exactly.
game.
You can pick it up and play, and then in a couple months you can be like, or a couple weeks, you can be like, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to try another route in Star Fox. I'm going to try this and go through another route, be good with it, and then maybe try it again as long as you have your subscription. Like, Star Fox is a great value for that service today, which is where I think it should live.
Absolutely. I really do agree with that. And
One
I do
annoying
wish-
thing, sorry to interrupt, but one annoying thing I would say is because it is this on rails, always moving game, and if you are aiming for a specific path and you somehow miss that objective, that can be very frustrating because you have to restart. It's not like something where you can, oh, I missed it, I can go back and get it. If you miss it, that's
But
GG.
that's kind of the beauty about what we're talking in today's time frame of having it on Switch Online is you can do the rewind feature on it. So you miss your shot, you can go back a minute or two and try and get it again.
yeah, that is
Back
the
in the
thing.
day, that would have sucked because you'd probably have to hit reset and start the whole thing again. But
I mean, you look at something like Grand Theft Auto now, with the new definitive trilogy, and that is the feature, right? Where we've talked about this, and for context, like we've talked about GTA 3, Vice City, that's all available right here in the archives. And with those games, if you failed the mission, you had to like go all the way back and get the mission over again. And that is a feature. And I think the more we go back, especially to like the 90s, mid 2000s, that was the thing. Like, if we were to calculate just how much time we lost of just failing a mission, walking back and starting over, that's a scary number if you were to start adding
even
that
if you
up.
save in GTA, even if you like saved before a mission and reloaded, you'd still have to go travel to the mission. But a lot of times I would do that because in case you died and lost your guns, whatever, you can just reload
Exactly.
and get that all back.
So in the previous episode, we talked about the legacy of the console itself. I think part of the reason that we chose this game is that Super Mario, there's Smash, there's a lot of games in the grand scheme of the N64 that are important. We wanted to at least focus on one game that came out within the first 12 months that's not Super Mario 64. So the question was, it's like, what is the lasting piece? What is that legacy? What is Star Fox 64 in the context of the N64 for you guys?
For me, it's Nintendo's commitment to out-of-the-box ideas, right? Like Star Fox is an example of them trying something that's a little out there, a little crazy, and it's succeeding, and giving them the confidence to do more insane things as time went on. So that's where you inevitably got to your failures like the Hey You Pikachu. But if Star Fox wasn't a success at all, then you wouldn't, like, Nintendo would have just played it safe the entire time. So to me, the weird things, like I imagine there's a string of events you can connect together that leads the original Star Fox on the SNES to the heart rate monitor for the Wii. Like, just Nintendo's crazy ideas. So to me, that's Star Fox.
Well, yeah, we missed the Rumble Pack, right? This was kind of the game that
That's
really
true.
set forth the Rumble Pack, which Rumble, I don't know if Nintendo was first to market with the whole Rumble effect, but that's certainly become a staple in games. But to go on to the legacy with Star Fox, I mean, Star Fox 64 is the pinnacle of the series. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But sadly, kind of at the end of the day, Fox, Falco, these characters are probably more remembered as Smash Brothers characters than anything else. I mean,
no question there.
Fox, no weapons, Final Destination only. I mean, this is what they're Melee really is what they are remembered for. Of course, they're also in all the Smash Brothers games, but Melee is still kind of the de facto competitive Smash Brothers. But yeah, because they were good Smash Brothers characters, people know them more for that. Like the music, when I think of the music of Star Fox 64, I more think of either Smash Brothers 64 or Melee.
You got to think about how many people got the Nintendo Switch Online service and they said, oh, look, a game from the guy in Smash. Not, oh, Fox had its own game and he's in Smash. I guarantee you, like, the overwhelming majority, kind of like Pit. I mean, I thought Pit was a Smash character, right? Because I really wasn't too much into those games growing up. So that's like a very interesting conversation where if you take Smash characters and you ask, like, which came first, the chicken or the egg, for a lot of people is they're a Smash character first, everything else second.
Yeah, exactly. Like a character like Ness. I had never heard of Earthbound.
Yeah.
But Smash Brothers. Same with Captain Falcon. I honestly didn't know what F-Zero was until
Same here.
Till Smash 64. And of course, that the whole reason we basically have Fire Emblem in the North America is because of Melee. It's Smash Brothers does a great job of introducing people to series that were maybe kind of under the radar and then help them succeed. So there's a chance that, although I think a lot of people were aware of Star Fox 64, that Smash 64 might have helped people get into the Star Fox series. So
absolutely. And with that, this has been part of our discussion with Star Fox 64. We really would love to know just what does everybody think about this game? It's so relevant now. As Keith said, there's a big debate about the price of the Nintendo Switch Online service. It's $80 for the family plan, and I believe that includes 5 people. So that's a little bit better if you have some people that fork over, right? You split that into a few people, but we really would love to get the conversation going on the Discord. So if you're checking this out on Spotify, everything else, that right there is in the description. And guys, we did it. This is the first series, Nintendo 64. How are you guys feeling? We made it happen.
We completed our quest.
The quest has been completed.
The winner is us.
Where's the reward? Where's the loot box?
Did we level up? Ooh.
Shake the thing. Shake the thing.
I dinged.
Yeah, grats. GZ.
So how are we feeling about year 1 and 64? If the question was like, if hypothetically, if you were to visit the N64 again in a future series, is there a year, is there a genre, something that comes to mind for you guys?
Platformers, 3D platformers.
That would be a thing. I mean, you got Banjo, you got that crappy ass Donkey Kong game, you got Mario,
Glover.
Oh my,
Robert True.
dude, you know what? I could totally go in for like a C tier platformer. All those good games, we
Some
ain't doing
Glover.
none of
Oh
that.
yeah, get some
You know,
Glover
kind
in
of
there.
to expand on that, I think it would be fun to like go through the N64 games that time forgot, because for every Super Mario
Ooh.
64 you get a Glover, you get your 3D Tetrises of the world, you get your battle tanks and your Hexens, like those N64 games that just aren't like the B tier games. And just going through some of those, I think that would be a lot of fun, because they have, in my
Your
opinion,
South Park game.
Oh
yeah.
wow,
the
that's
FPS
South Park.
South Park
I played
game
that
was
multiplayer.
brutally difficult. That
Oh,
game
it
Yeah.
was so
was
hard.
so
I actually
difficult.
think the final boss of that game is unbeatable in the
yeah,
N64.
he just
forgot
goes and
about that
heals
game.
himself every time.
It's total BS, but
I was
because-
using all the cheats and I still couldn't beat
I
him.
know.
Wow, that
same.
took
I
you back.
spent like 45 minutes on it. It was awful. I threw as many piss snowballs as I could at him, and he just wouldn't go down.
So I think, needless to say, we're definitely excited about doing that in the future. So for those watching or listening, please let us suggest forgotten, the non-obvious. You guys said South Park. That's a game I played a lot, and I haven't thought about that in over 15 years. So
feeling, I gotta sing.
Wow.
I think we brought that one enough that we know we got to talk about that one eventually. So Quest Rewind on Twitter, and then we also have the Discord. And look, we said this is a series, so that means that there will be a pause in maybe for a couple of weeks, give or take, as we prepare the next one. And I would love to give the forum to Mr. Ryan McNulty for Series 2, man. What are we possibly talking about here?
Series 2. Maybe we call it Series
Or the
X.
Actually, hey, before okay, but before Keith corrects us, what will the next quest be about? There we go.
Branding. There you
Yes,
go. You're
okay,
getting
so the
it.
next
You're learning it.
Quest is going to be about a system that a lot of people were quite fond of in the mid 2000s, and that is going to be the Xbox 360. We got the Red Rings, we got the BioShocks, we've got the Gears of War, plenty of things to talk about with the Xbox 360, a system I played a decent amount of, but actually never owned. So I'm excited to get a little more into it, maybe learn some things that I didn't know about the system.
Hey Keith,
One of my
you were the advocate for this, so talk to me.
Yeah, one of my favorite consoles ever. This was the time where I was probably at my peak of video game fandom and like starting to, not just be a connoisseur, but learn about the video game industry and that kind of stuff. Like, this is one of my highest points in video game fandom. It's probably one of my favorite consoles of all time. So I'm excited to go through some of the milestones of the Xbox 360, and then that final boss at the end of our quest. Boy, am I excited for that one. We got a doozy waiting at the end there.
Yeah, without spoiling the game, if you go back to the archives before we got a name change, there may be a game there with a possible sequel that we may be talking about. There are just rumors, though. But with that being said, we will catch everybody in a couple of weeks after this has gone live. We're going to be talking about more games, people. So head over to the Discord. That is where we will catch up and talking about catching up. And with this, we will end this with a nice little bow. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like, the best way to support what we are doing, the 5 stars are super important and all that. This is for the hardcore Quest Rewind audience for the whopping 5 episodes that we've done so far, right? But seriously, like, we post a lot of clips Ryan posts a lot of clips on the YouTube channel. Very angry thumbnails. I want to damn near punch myself. Very aggressive. Ryan, why are you so aggressive, man? Why are you so aggressive?
You gotta get those clicks, man. You gotta get the clicks.
Yeah, you need to know why the N64 did this?
So if you want to see what the hell we're talking about, youtube.com/Quest Rewind. And with that being said, warm hugs. N64, we'll catch you on the next one with Quest Rewind.